Hello and welcome to episode 157 of the Collector's Quest podcast. You may have noticed that NES prices are the highest they've ever been. Maybe that's not true. Maybe the highest they've ever been is like 2 months ago. But the obvious solution is to just buy Famicom games because they're all cheaper, right, guys? Well, yes, in the vast majority of cases, that is the case. But we want to talk about a few different cases of Famicom games. Some that are more expensive, some that are less expensive, and some of the aspects that might make a Famicom version of a game more collectible than the NES version, or vice versa. So tell your mom about the show, give us 5 stars on iTunes, check out our fancy new logo. I hope you're able to find this in your podcast app, and let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler, here with Johnny, no Stefan. Johnny, we're here. It's going to be a quick episode, in and out, 15 minutes. We're talking about Famicom games.
Woo! So we're going back to OG Collector's Quest, where we had multiple episodes that were 24 minutes long.
I don't remember that ever happening, but sure. OG Collector's Quest. Is Kat here? You keep saying Kat's going to come back on the show. I thought there was going to be a Christmas episode or something with Kat. Johnny.
Yeah. My whole December was like a nightmare, right?
Right into the show, if you remember who Kat is at this point.
Yeah. Did you ever hear Kat? Don't go back and listen to those episodes. They're not horrible. No, it's not that. But the audio quality is so, it just hurts your ears. So, read a synopsis.
A synopsis of what? The Star Wars episode that no one listened to, so we gotta read a synopsis?
Yeah. Don't worry, fellow Star Wars fans. I'm working on a list. That Star Wars list is coming along. You don't even know the deep dive I've done.
I sure haven't, Johnny, because I've been too busy buying Famicom games. Which isn't really true. I've been buying a lot of games, but...
I don't know why you keep trying to force us into this episode.
There's only 2 of us. We gotta get on the road.
We just gotta get no wasting time.
I'm sorry. Let's talk about episode. You, Johnny. Tell me about your Star Wars list of video games? Question mark.
Yeah, it's Star Wars games. That's all games.
Is this why you've been sending me pictures like this PS2 comic book variant has the stupid sticker on the back so you can't tell if it's the comic book version?
Yeah, it's not a sticker. It's actually printed on, but yeah. Yes, okay. Yes. That's exactly it. That kind of stuff, and there's Topps Connection, spelled with an X because they're cool discs in some variants. It's a whole thing. I'll have to do an episode by myself because you definitely won't care to sit through that episode, Tyler, and I'll just tell everybody. It's actually, there's so much data, it would be like multiple episodes.
You got me pretty excited to collect all the Topps Connection variants of whatever that game was. There's 240 different variants technically, if you count all of the characters and variants of that character you could possibly get.
On each system. So, no, there's 36 possible variants, but if you got the 36 variants for each system, they're not system specific, so you wouldn't need it, but technically so you do 36 times Xbox, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Xbox One, and PS4. Whew. But they would all be the same disc.
Johnny, they all count, right?
No.
I was told that every variant counts, and if you try to disclude things, it's because you're not a real collector.
No, in fact, the only way to even know if you have the specific variant for these is it's a Walmart variant. From what I can tell, because I have not compared the small print and stuff. I've compared a lot of it, but Intertext print. But is a sticker on the front of the game that says Topps Connection disc included, and then there's a little plastic sleeve on the manual where it sits.
And okay, so just to be clear, a Topps Connection disc, because I don't even know what this is. Is this a trading card game or is it a collectible disc?
It is both. So it's a weird thing. It's kind of imagine it's a mix between a trading card and a domino. So it's this little hexagonal disc that you can play like dominoes. Each character has like a different value according to some like lines on the side. I'm not into it. I don't care how the game is played, but apparently you could play a game. But the other thing is that it's like a collector's item. It doesn't matter what kind of frame you have, frame being like the outer color of the thing or like some inner foiling. You could have multiple different foilings or colors and different combinations therein. But the value of the disc for the game is the same no matter which print you have. It's really stupid. Like so it's this like Walmart exclusive Star Wars kind of like trading card, but also a game. Like it's horrible, Tyler. They did like special characters you could only get if you bought the Blu-rays and stuff. Like it's a nightmare. It failed. I'm happy to say that this thing failed.
So they're rare, is what you're saying, John.
No, they're not actually. And people, they used to be like $5 or $6 a pack, and some people still pay like $40 for them. And I'm just thinking, I just look at all the stuff I waste money on, and I'm just like, yeah, at least I didn't do that thing.
Well, Johnny, you know, sports cards or all trading cards in general, Pokemons, everything is super rare now. And it's not just like the stuff that came in a pack. There are like sports cards that you had to tear out of magazines, and people are like, this is the card that came out of Sports Illustrated. It's worth hundreds of dollars now because it's in mint condition. So keep your Topps Connection discs in mint condition because you never know when this is going to be the next hot thing. Star Wars Topps Connection discs.
Maybe I have some trading cards, like some video game trading cards, or I don't know what they are, from like EGM magazines. Do you remember like when magazines came in like sealed bags and the, yeah, maybe I should go look for those. Just kidding. I probably threw those away.
What is it? I don't remember. Nintendo Power had a set of trading cards, like the Nintendo Super Power cards or something.
Yeah, but those are neat.
I mean, those are neat, but like this is the year where I'm going to open up Instagram and someone's going to have one that's like graded. This is my PSA 7 Super Metroid Nintendo Super Power card.
I know Stefan has the whole set, so we should ask him to get that graded so we can see it.
Fun fact, also part of that set are Punch-Out stamps, which are listed in my Video Game Sage Stamp Collecting for Video Games guide.
Are the Pogs also part of that?
No. What?
Okay.
I don't even know what the Pogs are.
There was Nintendo Power Pogs.
Oh, I'm too old for this. I'm too young for this. What am I talking about? Probably both.
Yeah, somehow you're both. All right. Wow, that was a super deep I was just like, and then I'm tired, so my brain just kept going. Do we want to get into the episode now? We did the rambling thing.
Yeah, we could definitely.
Yeah.
We can talk about some Japanese games, Johnny.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're not just talking about Famicom games. What are we, like, what's our angle? We always have a gimmick, right? Hey!
Whoa!
Oh, that's going to be a pun for you guys.
if you don't know, you'll understand that pun in a half hour, probably.
Yeah. Woo!
We're talking about NES versus Famicom prices, Johnny, because Famicom prices are always lower than NES prices, and it's just the poor people system. Right?
Is it? I mean, maybe. A lot of times, yes.
That is like 80% of the time. That's 100% true. Especially for games that are not playable in English, because I would say, I don't know if there's a rule of thumb or something, but if it's a playable game that is expensive, like a Panic Restaurant, which people might want to play, generally that's something that would be cheaper on the Famicom. But something like Dragon Warrior 4, which you might want to bring up, is cheaper because you can't play it in English, but it's dirt common on Famicom.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Warrior, any of the Dragon Warriors, well, excluding the first one, and, you know, Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest, you know, you could get Dragon Quest 2 for a lot less than you could buy Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior 2. Same with Dragon Quest 3 and 4 versus the Dragon Warrior games. But if you can't read that, then it doesn't really matter. A lot of times people say, oh, I just want to play it, so I'm going to go get the cheap version over in Japan. However, this is a world where you have to cough up or just play a ROM, because that's even less expensive. I don't know why we're still like buying into the like intellectually dishonest argument that like people just buy these because they're cheaper. Like, you're just trying to collect something. You're not doing it just so you can play it. You just want to buy the cheaper thing. I'm not buying into the arguments like, well, I want to play. Like, because if you just want to play, but like, whoa, the hardware. It's like, well, then, there's a lot of good ways you can play ROMs on original hardware still. They keep making more. So, I don't know. It's just a weird argument to me when people try and bring this up. It used to be the collector versus player argument, and now we'll get into the collector versus investor argument. Like, I don't want to grade those games. I want to be able to open them up one day and play them if I want to. Now we sound like the people who used to hate collectors. It's great.
I got a story about that, Johnny. I mean, I do want to come back to your Famicom comments, but I just learned that the Globtop Super Nintendo games, maybe the Globtop Nintendo games, meaning the PCBs that have sort of a black blob on top of the actual components of the PCB, those have date codes on the PCB. And I didn't know that. And now my Donkey Kong competition and my Star Fox Super Weekend, they're in these stupid-ass WATA cases, so I can't open them up and document what variant I have. And no one cares about this. Like, no one is, like, documenting date codes of their Donkey Kong and Star Fox Super Weekends, but now I will never be able to know because, like an idiot, I slabbed a game that's not sealed.
Well, I can't wait for, like, the slabbing. If anyone ever cares about date codes, I wonder how many people are going to, like, want to crack their cases to see if they have the oldest ones. It's only ever going to be worth it if a huge price disparity comes out of it.
Yeah, like, in Donkey Kong, I think that was, like, $200 to grade it, and that was before WATA increased their prices twice. So,
wow,
I'm not opening that.
No,
but
please don't.
I mean, like, I can't imagine a world where people are like, "Oh, my Donkey." Like, they were probably all produced at the same time, right? But if there is an earlier print Donkey Kong competition, like, are people really going to care?
Like, it was the competition cart that they were testing on in house, and then they just sent to the competition, anyways. Like, you might have that one.
Like, I mean, if there was something cool about it, like that one has like different EEPROMs, or that one actually has EEPROMs rather than Globtops, that would be cool. But I don't know if it's just a date code and it's like, oh, my Donkey Kong competition was made a week earlier. I win collecting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think, I don't think I care enough to even pull mine out of just the regular cases to open them up and look at them.
You're what?
My competition cards.
Oh. Wait, you have the case for Donkey Kong competition? Are you that cool, Johnny?
I am, yeah.
Oh my god, you are so cool.
Yeah,
guys, I've talked to Johnny for years and I don't even know how cool he is. So, holy shit.
Yeah, I've had it forever.
I'll make this a more relatable tip though. If you might be someone who has, say, 450 copies of Super Mario Duck Hunt, those also have date codes on the PCB. So maybe you need to start opening them up and realize that there's more than like 4 Mario Duck Hunt variants. There could be dozens.
Come on, Chris.
Document every variant. You were probably in the best position of anyone in the world to document all this garbage.
Yep. Yes. Okay. So now we've gone off topic again. Should we come back to being on topic?
Famicom games. What were you saying? People are being intellectually dishonest. I think that's probably true. I don't think there's anything wrong with just wanting to collect Famicom games because they're adorable. They're cute. They're the coolest things. They got these tiny little boxes. I love them.
Yeah. Look, I don't have a problem, but like when people make up weird excuses for it, I just don't like. Collect whatever you want. Don't justify it. You don't need to do all that. You don't need to jump through the hoops. Like, don't, or they're just like, oh, it's too expensive on Nintendo, so I'm going to buy it over here. Okay, that's fine. That's a perfectly reasonable reason. But I hate when people go like, oh, well, I want to play it on the original console. Famicom was, the first, so I'm going to go play that version. That's the one I want to own. But then they've got like a mix of like regular Nintendo games and then Famicom games. And I just look and I'm like, you just did it because it was cheaper. And there is nothing wrong with that. That is a fine reason to do it. It's a fine reason. Especially if you're not a slave to like weird sets and pretend rules that we've made, then just do that and just say that. And who cares what people think about it? But the weird hoop jumping is the thing I don't like. Anyways, well, let's get on with this episode. Let's talk about some popular games with well-known differences between Famicom prices and, NES pricing.
Well, I want to start with two disclaimers here. So first, most of our prices are coming from price charting or eBay, which for Famicom games tends to be a lot higher than what you're going to see prices in Japan. But by the time you pay an importer and you're paying double shipping because you're paying the Japanese shipping and then the overseas shipping, it's somewhat comparable to what an eBay price would be. eBay also has a convenience factor, so prices on eBay are still higher than even that. But we're just going with eBay prices. And then the second thing, we're not going over probably the most popular games are what we're going to be skipping. Castlevania, Super Mario Brothers 3, things like that. Like games that have increased in price 10 times over the past 2 years. It would be such a snapshot in time for us to compare prices there, because historically, Super Mario Brothers 3 on Famicom, kind of worth nothing. Super Mario Brothers 3 on NES, worth a little bit more than nothing, but like they were in the same range of these are both the most common things on planet Earth. But now, Mario and some Castlevania games have spiked up so much that it wouldn't be a fair comparison. Whereas the games we're going to be going over they have big price differences because of differences in the tastes of the market and the game. And I imagine many of these differences will stay that way even as prices go weird.
Yeah, I mean, unless, like you said, unless some hype happens around one of these things, then these prices should remain at least consistent in ratio to one another.
Maybe. Who knows? Because there are no rules anymore, Johnny.
No, I was going to say, we are in the time of Mad Max. The Thunderdome has been opened. We've all been invited in, so I can't say for sure what's going to happen anymore.
I also want to point out, I can say, I'm almost sure I can speak for both of us, Johnny. I don't understand the Japanese market, and I don't understand what they put value on. Because
no idea.
Super Mario Brothers is a great example. That is a cheap game in Japan, just like it was in America forever, but it's still probably like $25 to $40 will get you a pretty nice copy of Super Mario Brothers. Ninja Gaiden, that's like a $90 game. And Dragon Warrior, it's like $50 to $70, I think. But that's not how America would have worked. Or that's not how America is going now. So I don't really understand their tastes or what they put value on. So we're just basically looking at numbers and somewhat guessing on why they are the way they are.
Yeah, well, and what's extremely popular over here isn't necessarily the same. Like, obviously, Zelda and stuff is universal, but not every game was. Some games that were super big here, like, wasn't Metroid not super big there initially?
Like, I don't know.
Was that something? Am I making that up? That's something I thought I heard.
They're jerks if that's true, because Metroid is so good. I mean, that sounds totally reasonable, because like the entire genre of first-person shooter, Japanese people are just like those stupid Americans and their stupid genre. I don't think they care about that nearly as much as Americans do.
Yeah, I'm unsure. But anyways, that was all just to say that we don't, we aren't of that culture. We didn't grow up there. We don't have the same nostalgia buttons. So we don't we can't speak for a whole island that we don't, have a great understanding of. As Tyler said, we can only look at the numbers. So our data has no context in that regard.
Sure.
All right.
So Johnny, let's start off with the popular games with well-known differences. What's the first one we've got?
Castlevania 3, game no one's ever heard of. Akumaja Dracula 3.
That game doesn't work right in my Famiclone. The music sounds messed up. It's unplayable.
Yeah, it's because it has a special chip on the Famicom. Special sound chip. It's not like they designed a special chip. We've talked about this on the show before, where that Castlevania had a special, they got more out of it because they built more sound channels into a special chip in the cart. So when it went into the Famicom, it, produced super great sound, even though the soundtrack that we got was still very, very good.
It's true.
So, yeah. So on NES, you can get a cart for like $35 to, $130 for a CIB around there. You can get like a worse copy for under that. If, you look hard, you can find them for like $190 in that range. But Famicom, the cart's a little more expensive there. It's like 55, and the completes are definitely more expensive, 150 and up usually.
Yep, and you were talking about how, people don't buy things to play. I would say that for these first few set of games, especially Castlevania 3, I think this is a cartridge people buy to play with the expansion audio.
Sure.
With that MMC5 chip.
There are some exceptions. It's really weird because there are some like popular stereotypes and tropes about like Japanese gaming compared to American gaming. Like they just say like, oh, Japanese gaming is so much harder. Like Americans are just bad, lazy gamers and they're not good at video games. So we like dumb them down. But they had like password systems like before we did games that we just got like 3 continues and that was it. They just had passwords for. There's like a lot of stuff that like the game technically may have been a little bit harder, but they had ways to like, ease that difficulty, which because, the NES in a lot of ways, compared to like the Famicom and the disk system and, was just a little bit of an inferior system in some regards. It was just a little behind the technology. It felt like, at least for like passwords and stuff. So, some of those games were easier in Japan, but if you ask people, the normal stereotype is Japanese games are harder.
I think I don't know. My first thought is immediately the next game on our list, Johnny, so I do not have that thought immediately. Ninja Gaiden 3, a game that never comes up on Collector's Quest, which is really weird.
Castlevania and Ninja Gaiden, we never talk about them.
Yes.
Never.
Ninja Gaiden 3, way easier. The Japanese version, it was, we've said it before, but kind of developed in the same mindset as a Kirby game, where they wanted a game where more people would be able to beat and enjoy it. Also, has a password system. I think it also has unlimited continues, so it's easier, unlimited continues, and has a password system on a game that's like 20 minutes long, which is the reason Americans, I guess, want to play it. So people do frequently import this one, but it is cheaper on Famicom because it's kind of uncommon in America. So NES, that's a $50 cartridge. Famicom, it's a $30 cartridge. And right now they're about $212 complete on NES, and I said $100 on Famicom. I don't think there was a recent sale, but there is an unsold one for $100.
Okay. And then I haven't really looked at this one. I just know that the price difference is always crazy. And I'm not sure why, but Contra. Tell me about Contra. What is going on with a game that you can buy on the Nintendo for, $25-$30, 135 complete in box? Why does it go between 40 for a cart to 450 complete on the Famicom?
So I for some reason I thought that Contra was like a later release on the Famicom. I might have incorrectly said that on Collector's Quest, but both versions came out in February of 1988. And Wikipedia lists specific dates. It says like the American version came out a week before the Japanese version, but having specific dates for games from the 80s are real first print's the American one. Having specific dates for games from the 80s, I don't believe them unless you could like actually prove it. Largely because games often didn't have specific release dates, so it's like, where are you even getting that date from?
Yeah, well, for people who don't know, like back now everything has like these staged release dates, and that was like a big thing that like kind of with Sonic 2 became more standardized. Like they had Sonic Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
But like made it a thing. And then like in the 90s and stuff, you had like was it Media Wednesdays or Tuesdays? I think it was Tuesdays released. And then comics were always on Wednesdays. So they had like these specific release days. And then they started to publish when they were going to do these bulk shipments. Back in Nintendo, they were like, they only had so many batches. So it might come out in Florida, 1 week. And then a month later hit California. They weren't like, here's the street date for this game. It came out, I'm assuming that the date they would use is the date they sent the first batch to a shipping depot.
Sure. And like, I don't even know how games worked in Japan versus America in terms of release dates and things like that. Yeah. Also, I know Wikipedia has specific release dates, but Moby Games, I think, just says February. So whenever there's a discrepancy, that probably means there's not a really solid source for a release date, and you should take everything with a grain of salt. But that's not the reason Contra is crazy expensive on Famicom.
No, why is it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm guessing because Contra is one, awesome, and two, it is just dirt common in America and maybe less dirt common in Japan, but also the Famicom version of Contra is absolutely the definitive version of the game. It has the Konami VRC2 mapper, which is, so a mapper is just basically the hardware configuration of the actual cartridge. So if you put your own special hardware configuration into an NES cartridge or a Famicom cartridge, you can make it do fancier things, which Konami did in Contra. It's got cutscenes and animated backgrounds are the two things you're immediately going to notice on the Famicom version that are not in the NES version. And in some levels, there's like a huge difference. So there's the trees sway in the first level, and there's like a blizzard in the snow level that looks better. But in the last level, when it's like all alien kind of Geiger slimy nonsense, like that's all animated. Like everything is just creepy crawly in the whole last level of Contra. And it's f***ing awesome. Is it $450 awesome? I don't know. But that one is one that's much more expensive on Famicom.
I mean, I think we've mentioned this before, but I want to get your take again. So is it, God, what is the name in Europe? Probotector, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the European name.
Yeah, so I'm always like adding an extra like E or B into that. Which are they the same game?
Yes.
They are, even though they have different sprites and different names.
Yes. Just like the game that comes with different TOPS connection pogs are the same game. But I would say Probotector and Contra are the same game.
Okay. But from a narrative standpoint, and I think we already went down this, but I like to bring it up. From a narrative standpoint, the change in the sprites changes the story of the game.
Sure.
Like a lot. You're like two dudes versus like two robots. That's a lot different.
The Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles in Europe were not ninjas. Are they no longer the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I mean, but they were heroes that still did like martial arts and everything. They didn't change them. They weren't suddenly the Teenage Mutant like Ninja Canaries.
Well, so if you think you changed the species, that would be different if you kept everything else the same?
Yeah, like because, well, they're still turtles, right? So you're not changing them from being turtles. You are changing them like now a robot versus, a bio being, like a human versus a robot. That's a big difference. That's a big difference in story. You have to think about like, okay, what is the world like where they have like robots who can be the heroes and protectors of this whole planet? That's a lot different than, something that looks like they dropped aliens into the middle of Vietnam.
With all of this, I err on the side of everything is the same, basically. Because if the gameplay is 100% identical and it's just graphics or story or there's like aspects that are different, but it's fundamentally the same game, I err on the side of it is the same game.
So Doki Doki Panic and Super Mario 2, same game?
I don't know enough about the differences besides the graphics, but yes, probably, yes.
Okay.
So...
You guys should at me.
Okay,
let us know what you guys think of this.
That's a very interesting one because Doki Doki Panic was re-released in Japan as Super Mario USA. So it technically also was in Japan as Super Mario Brothers 2, the way it is in America. So now I don't know. That's a very weird case.
Yep. Anyways, I just want people to think about that. Like the idea that aliens were there and aliens descending into Vietnam versus a world that you would expect to be futuristic if they have robots that can be their protectors and, defend the planet. So it's just the thing
is, I don't want to make a subjective judgment call on when a game is different enough to be different. Like if there's a version of Mortal Kombat with blood versus sweat, is that a different game? Like,
no, because
I don't want to make that call.
You're not changing, like that's a graphic difference that does not affect the narrative.
Okay, what about a typo that's corrected? If there was a version of Double Dragon that had Billy and Jimmy instead of Bimmy and Jimmy, technically that's a whole different character.
I mean that has happened in games where they like change people's names and like change them back and forth until they they get it right until they, decide on nope, this is the thing, and they kind of retcon a little bit. I don't know. There's a weird thing with games where that, like a lot of other genres, don't have to deal with. So, just let me know what you guys think. We don't need to solve this or anything. I was just...
The Star Wars special editions have never had to deal with changes that are made that we have to decide if they're canon or not.
Yeah, people love to bring up Star Wars special editions. They're like, yeah, Lucas is the first asshole who ever changed his art. It's like, well, I mean, what about Tolkien? Like, Tolkien totally changes The Hobbit multiple times. In fact, I think it's in the 4th edition of The Hobbit, where Tolkien goes and he has to change part of the story and demands that his publisher releases a new print because when Lord of the Rings is coming out, it won't make sense to the Lord of the Rings unless they do some fundamental changes. So like Bilbo, when he's with Gollum and they're, wagering for the ring, it's a wager versus like a game of riddles. It's a different sequence there, and also the whole goblins and orcs things and like what that means. It's a whole different thing that he retcons to fill into Lord of the Rings better. So I'm just saying, Lucas isn't the first guy who ever changed things. People love to pillory Lucas for this, even though now people are coming back around because the sequel trilogies, people feel so strongly against those. And prequel memes are good and interesting, which doesn't make the prequels good, guys, just so we know. So people are starting to like come around thinking like, oh no, Lucas was a hero. Like when I was, 20-ish and the prequels came out, Lucas was the enemy. He destroyed Star Wars. Now people think like he's the guy. Kathleen Kennedy is the enemy. And Lucas can bring him back. And with Filoni and Favreau, they can save Star Wars. And maybe that's true. Like maybe, like I enjoy The Mandalorian. I enjoy the thing that's happening. I will tell you, and this is a little bit joke and a little bit true. I am really mad at Dave Filoni because one, I don't know if he loves the prequels, but he's got a certain reverence for them. And he's going through and attaching things in The Mandalorian and, through Rebels and Clone Wars. Like he's making some of the choices that I hated in the prequels. He's like justifying those choices and then like showing good uses of them in the future, which I hate. I hate that. I hate that I have to look back and be like, oh yeah. And then like kind of have a good feeling for something I dislike intensely. It's messing with me a little bit. So thanks, Dave Filoni.
Everything that's good in Star Wars that's not the original trilogy, I just think of like, oh, that's interesting. They made a good Star Wars thing. At this point, like, I don't care about so much Star Wars that I'm not invested in anything. You can't ruin Star Wars to me at this point. It is quote unquote already been ruined by all the excess garbage there is. I'm at that point where it's like, look, I just love the original trilogy. And then if something cool happens in the Star Wars universe and I get to like look at it on TV or movies, then hey, cool. I was already stabbed in the heart and that I already died. Right. So the sequel trilogies didn't ruin me or anything. It's all just stuff that happened now. I can just go watch it, enjoy it. Even though you know how much I love Star Wars. I do.
But I don't need everything to be perfect anymore. I'm past that.
Yeah. Hey, I don't like Star Wars, and I like The Mandalorian. It's just a cool space western show. If you guys haven't watched it, take it from a guy who doesn't like Star Wars. It's a good show.
Yeah, Mandalorian's great. Favreau and Filoni, what do you want? Okay, so man, we are doing a really bad job at doing this episode.
Next up is Star Wars on the Famicom.
Yeah, Star Wars. Super cheap. You can get the Namcot version. No, we're not talking about that. Expensive games, just like in general, they can be expensive for the Famicom. They can be expensive for the NES. We're just going to talk about a few that have like huge price discrepancies one way or the other. And we got a couple of PAL NES releases in here for illustrative purposes too. Well, let's go with your first one. What is Lickle?
Lickle is an amazing Taito Famicom game. It's a platformer that is not overrated and is very fun to play. I don't know what Little Samson is. I've never heard of that one.
No, it's a Bible game, right?
Yeah, I think it's a Bible game. Maybe it's another name for Bible Adventures. Anyway, Little Samson is a $1,300 cartridge or $3,000 complete.
Whew.
I took those from price charting. I haven't actually looked at recent prices. That seems very much the same as it's always been, which is something we say on the show. One day that's going to change, and that rule is not going to hold fast. But
I thought it just like wasn't true because I think it just experienced like a bump.
Did it? I mean, I would not be surprised with coronavirus.
A bump or a dip. Something happened to the price of it because we were talking about consistent for so long, it like unweathered by the storm, and then all of a sudden I looked and I'm like, wait, something affected Little Samson. The world is ending.
Well, it's too bad because those are the prices I wrote down. Also, side note, I was going to say like, wow, Ninja Gaiden 3's price is completely flat because I was looking at Game Value Now and it hasn't recorded a price since like 2018 for Ninja Gaiden 3. It's like, oh, I guess I'm going to switch over to price charting. Another note, don't trust price tracking websites. Do a completed listing search on eBay.
Yeah. Also, and we might as well throw this out now too. You know, we complain a lot about our pricing websites because they are imperfect, you know, whether they're on Game Value Now or price charting, you know, that they both have their benefits and their flaws. Neither of them are perfect, but at least we have them. If you go to like, look up a Famicom price guide, like in Japan or Europe, like they're just struggling out there, man. They're just out in the dark, making up prices, hoping stuff sticks. I don't know. Like they must always just use eBay completes, which is probably the best market indicator, but still, you know, it's at least we have something we can, you know, a quick reference guide versus like, you know, having to do a search in mass on eBay.
Yeah, it would be a pain. Yeah. Maybe they have stuff then we don't know about it. I don't know. Maybe
like, please, if you know, tell me because I would love to have access to these.
What if they're like using like text documents like we did in 1997?
Oh man, like and fake rarity where like a group of people just decide on the rarity. This is a 4. You're like, we have no idea. We definitely don't have enough data to prove this, but we'll say it's a 4, and then we'll make that stick forever and ever and ever, even though it's not true.
Anyway, Lickle, Johnny, it's a $200 cartridge, $300 to $400 complete on Famicom. I don't think there's anything special about this game. Both kind of the NES the NES version is not really a special game. It's more of the world's biggest hidden gem, and it's pretty rare. So to me, the Famicom version just seems like a placeholder for someone who actually wants the NES version in this case.
Yeah, I mean, probably true. And that's what happens a lot. And that's why I went into that whole thing where people are like, I want to play it on this system because blah. No, you don't. It was cheaper, and that's fine. It's fine. You don't need to pay $1,300 for a game. You don't need to. It's okay. Just do whatever you need to do.
Don't buy the PAL version. Buy an NTSC version that runs at 60 hertz. Don't buy a garbage NES game like PAL Little Samson.
Yeah, well,
to save money. I don't need PAL Little Samson could be more expensive for all I know. It's not, but
I mean, that's
like
the question though. For like, are PAL games that are designed like PAL specific exclusives that are designed around that 50 hertz refresh rate? Do you think those are fine? Like, are those the best versions to play if they're exclusives, or would you recommend people try and get things that have been ported over to NES and run at the NTSC rate?
I can't think of any PAL games that were ported to NTSC. Not like there are none. It's just like I'm not an expert in the area. Like, is there an example of a game you have?
I don't. Look, you saw how much I struggled just to use words for that minute. Yeah, please, you know what? Just edit all that out. Just cut the whole thing. It was a pointless conversation. All right.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's move on to our next game, which is Sqoon. If you don't know about Sqoon, in the U.S.
Sqoon?
Sqoon?
How do you, Sqoon? There's no U. How do you pronounce it?
A Sqoon? I think it's Sqoon, like schooner. So, I think that's correct. I don't know.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say this game was named in English based on something that sounds similar on the Japanese name. I actually don't know what the Japanese name is, but I'm going to guess it's just some idiot who's just like, oh, it looks like Sqoon to me. Yeah,
so Sqoon, it's a submarine game by Irem, which is weird because when this game was produced, I think I read that Irem didn't have anyone to do service out in the States for it, so it was like serviced by Border Bund. It's like a weird game. Anyways, it's an old hang tab game. So if you want it in the box for the NES, it is $1,000-ish. So the last one sold for $1,000. And then one before that in a terribly beat up box was like $890 or something.
It wasn't that beat up, but like the hang tab was messed up.
Well, yeah, it's a hang tab game. So as I've been taught to do lately, I just stare at the hang tab. And if the hang tab is trash, I'm like, the whole box must be garbage now because the hang tab is ruined. Anyways, it's $1,000. The only ones for sale are like $1,200 and $1,300. Some of them have best offers. But if you want a Famicom one, well, then just dish out $35. $40. It's yours. No big deal.
Complete box, to be clear.
Yeah. So it's like a weird. Yeah, don't spend $1,300 if you don't have to. Also, in Japan, it does have the Scoon name on it as well. The sub is pink, though.
So is it just a Japanese name that we translated over? Does Scoon mean something? Is that just the name of the ship? I
have no idea. I'm going to look it up. Let's look up Scoon dictionary.
Let's look up what we're supposed to know about.
Well, I didn't expect you to ask me what the name is.
I don't know. It's an interesting
name.
Me a curve.
I have no swoon. Nope. It's not a real word. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to say it's the name of the ship. I don't know anything about Scoon except that people pay a lot of money for the box.
So you want to know what Urban Dictionary has to say about it?
What does it have to say, Johnny?
And I know, and this is not correct. So Scoon, spelled Sqoon, is pronounced Scoon, resembling or acting douchey. These are individuals to whom negative attention is drawn intentionally, dressing, tattooing oneself for the sole intent of drawing "what a douchebag" stares. These individuals have been known to travel in groups and frequent similar bars and establishments. Hi, here's the example. Hi, I'm actually looking for an Affliction shirt or Ed Hardy apparel that would accent my dope new arm tattoo. Scoon.
So weird that a Japanese game developer would base their entire name of their game on that unknown American slang.
Yeah, definitely not, especially since that slang is dated in 2011. And Wikipedia, tells me that this game came out in 1986 in Japan and 1987 in North America.
Are you telling me I can get the first print for just $35, Johnny?
Yeah, first print, the real first print, $35. Got that pink sub, a weird frowny fish, submarines that look like, I don't know, Nerf darts on the box. Like, go look at the box art. It's really weird. Though I like it, but it's like a weird art. Anyways, that's all I got. There's nothing for me to tell you about this game except it's got a hang tab. It's a pain in the ass to find, and it's expensive. Welcome to Nintendo. But I think this is one of those games that in the modern era of collecting, investing, I don't think investors care about this game yet. So at least there's that.
No, they do. Third-party hang tabs, Johnny. Wada's going to write an article about it, so it'll be the next big thing. Has been the word for 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened, right? Like, they've got into Konami and Capcom hang tabs, which makes sense. One day we'll get into Irem hang tabs. And people have been like moving over into like, oh, this game's got a rare hang tab, so you should care. And no, you probably shouldn't. Who cares? Especially if it's a garbage game. Anyways.
You surf the trends, Johnny. Don't be in what's hot now. Figure out what's going to be hot tomorrow. And at this point, I have no idea what's going to be hot tomorrow. But
nope.
Anyway. I think the next game is the most interesting thing in the entire conversation of NES versus Famicom, Johnny.
Nope, you're going to be wrong.
No, I'm 100% right. Nope. It is Gimmick, released in like Sweden or Scandinavia as Mr. Gimmick, which is a very hot PAL NES game. If it's not the most expensive PAL NES game, it's like top 3. And it is a $722 cartridge and $1,350 complete on NES. And on Famicom, it is still very collectible. It's like a $400 cartridge or $800 complete. This is a later release NES game. 1992 on Famicom, 1993 in Europe, which is super late in addition to its limited distribution, which is why it's a rare game. And I guess just for reference, I think that the rarest PAL NES games are Phantom Air Mission, which is Flight of the Intruder, weirdly enough, and Snowboard Challenge, which is Heavy Shredding. I have no idea why. I'm pretty sure like you can't even find those games at all. I think there was just a Phantom Air Mission on eBay listed for something like $7,000 or something ridiculous.
Oof.
So like a Gimmick I know is not the most expensive or rarest PAL NES game, but from us weird Americans, it's the one we want the most, at least. It's kind of like Europe's Little Samson, because it's also a really cool game. It's a platformer with excellent graphics and style. It looks like a Kirby game, and you kind of pick up a star and throw it around, and it's got physics. Just one of the best looking NES games and one of the most advanced NES games, bar none. Again, very similar to Little Samson, which is another very great looking game. The thing about Gimmick, the original first print, oh my god, the Japanese version runs at 60 hertz. The PAL version, which is the more collectible one, runs at 50 hertz. And I totally understand your point, Johnny. You don't want to play the game. Who cares? Whatever. To me, the fact that the PAL version is essentially running in slow motion. I think it runs, what is it? It's like 16% slower when you play the PAL version of an unoptimized NES game. That version is kind of garbage, because it's not going to be the version I'd ever want to play, even though it's the cool version to own. Also, the Famicom version has expansion audio. So I don't know, Little Samson, it's the same thing, Japan versus America. Obviously, I think I want the American version. This, I don't know. I think I would want the Famicom version more than the NES version, or I would want both, but I can't tell.
Okay. What about box art wise? What do you give the nod on box art to?
They're both, I don't know. So I'm doing it on memory, but the Japanese one has like a stylistic little gimmick looking kind of cute, and the PAL one is him getting like sucked into a vortex. I think I like the Famicom gimmick box more.
Yeah, I think I like the Famicom one more. It almost looks like a claymation shot.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking of the right box, but yeah. So he's looking like a cute little green Kirby on.
Yeah, and the other one, like I normally like a vortex. I just don't like whatever is happening here. Though I do like the name Mr. Gimmick better than Gimmick.
No, I like Gimmick way more.
I like that you have to call him Mr.
It's so silly. It's such a weird thing.
Hello, Mr. Gimmick. But definitely Famicom box art for me. Anyways, not that should matter at all, but I would like to play this game. I never have played through this one. Some of them I've played, like Banana Prince I've played, but I've never played this. And what's the Australian one? Euphoria? Euphoria is one I've played as well. I say Australian. I don't know if that's Australian or not.
Yeah, Gimmick's awesome. It's one of those games where, so I've never beat Gimmick. If I remember, I don't remember how many stages there are, but like you have to find all the super hard secrets in every stage and then beat the game without dying to unlock the last level to actually beat the game. Which is similar to like a Bubble Bobble, I guess, or anyway, it's I'm pretty sure it's super hard if you actually want to beat it. We should play Gimmick one day, Johnny. Let's do it.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. It looks awesome. I like the way it looks.
So what version do you want? Do you want the better version for half the price, or do you want the PAL version, which only came out in Scandinavia?
I would probably get the PAL version.
I know you would get the PAL version.
Yeah, just because, I don't know, I dabble in PAL stuff anyways, and I have debated buying like a few more PAL games. I have like 3 PAL NES games, and that's it. But I debate buying more.
I've got a couple. I don't know. I've got like the Lion King. Like all the ones I have are like Aussie footy football or whatever that were like, yeah, it's $20. I guess I'll buy it because it's exclusive.
Yep. It's a good reason to do it. I want to get Banana Prince. I would like to get Gimmick. I would like to get Euphoria, but there's just like a few cool games that I would like that are PAL, especially because the boxes fit next to the other Nintendo boxes. Yeah, that's a big deal for me. If it doesn't fit next to it, like I like the small box ones because I think they're cool, but they also don't fit exactly on the shelves just right. So that puts me off a little bit. Like Devil World, where you can only find in the small box.
Yeah.
So. And speaking of Devil World, I'll just
also wait. I just want to give an update because I said it. Gimmick's $1,350. I don't remember where I got that price. Probably a price tracking website. There is one sale. The last one was a buy it now for $2,000. So take whatever price you want with the grain of salt. Gimmick is a crazy expensive game.
Yeah, there's just not that many usually up. So a lot of times it's within reason of the last sold price is kind of what it goes for.
Yep.
So. If you're looking, then you're probably paying.
Now that I've ruined your transition, Johnny, speaking of Devil World.
Speaking of Devil World, hey, Miyamoto's cool, right? Everyone likes Miyamoto?
Who's that?
I don't know. I'm reading your note here. It says, and I quote, "Everybody likes Miyamoto, right?" Question mark.
Wait.
No,
I did not actually write that somewhere.
I'm just kidding. There's no script here. I'm joking. We do have like a little note of like games we're going to talk about, but there's no actual script. Devil World. So Miyamoto, this game is very cheap on Famicom. Very, very cheap. Let me tell you again, if you care and you're like, oh man, I got to get all them Miyamoto games, like, and this one's got like a name like Devil World. That sounds awesome. It's got like a black box version in Europe. Oh my God, it's a small black box, but it's got that black box art. It's $1,200. But if you want the Famicom one, it's like $35.
I think to be fair, I think it's a unsold buy it now right now on eBay is $1,200, but I don't think there's any sold listings either. So that's
no, there's not. So again, but it's whatever, 1,200, 1,000, 900, 800, 1,500 could be anywhere in that range, but it isn't $35.
It sure is. Devil World is a game where if you buy a lot of Famicom games, like just random common garbage, you are likely to get a copy of Devil World.
Yep, and that Dragon Warrior 4 that you can't play and Devil World, they'll be right next to each other. Same box. So anyways, if you want to check out Devil World, it's an interesting game. You can buy a US repro. I don't recommend it, though some of us on this podcast may own one, not naming any names. Johnny. Oh, that's me. Look, I was young. I didn't know any better. I was like, it's Miyamoto. I don't advocate for that now. Just, you learn and you grow and you get past it, okay? It was the early 2000s. I didn't know what I was doing. Somebody told me it was a black box game. Devil World. It's a fine game. You can, if you just want to play it, just go grab a ROM. Don't buy the US repro. Just I would actually probably just recommend picking up the Famicom version, not just because of the price, but also because I don't know if this is one of the reasons I asked Howard. I don't know if that the different frame rates there are gonna mess you up. The different hertz it runs on. So I don't know if that changes the game. So. That's all I got. That's Devil World. If you haven't seen it, go check out some videos of Devil World. Decide if you want it. Maybe one day we'll go through all of Miyamoto's games and which are collectible and which aren't. So you want to collect Miyamoto.
I can't actually immediately find if Devil World was optimized for PAL. I would just assume not, because so many games were not optimized for PAL NESs, meaning the PAL version of Devil World probably runs in slow motion. This is a very different case than Gimmick, though, because Devil World on Famicom, I don't actually believe this. In the way I would say it is, it's garbage, meaning it's so common that you could easily pick it up it's going to be available all day at very low prices. I wouldn't say that buying Devil World on Famicom is a substitute for buying the super cool PAL version, if that's the version you really want. Whereas with Gimmick, the version on Famicom is still so collectible, I do believe that could be an acceptable substitute for the PAL version. Yeah,
this is not about substitution. I was stating merely as something you want to play.
Yeah. If you want to play, it's probably on Switch, NES. It's probably not because it has crosses, right? All right. Yeah. It's probably on Switch in Japan. Go get a Japanese Switch. Just download a ROM. Go to coolrom.com. Our sponsor of the show. I don't even know if that website still exists. I just bring it up because it's what I used in high school all the time.
That was literally your website, was coolrom.com.
Coolrom.com. Yes, that's where I would get my ROMs.
I thought that was just a joke.
School computers.
I literally thought that was a joke you've just been saying.
No, it's a real website.
I did not know that was real.
Or it was.
At one point it was real. All right. Good to know. Okay, let's move on. We're just kind of lagging here. What are some more expensive games?
I put Stadium Events because last year I got a brand new Famicom copy for $50, and obviously on NES that's some tens of thousands of dollars.
You guys have heard of that game before. Yeah. Now, who cares about Stadium Events? Garbage. Tell me about Bomberman 2. What's going on with Bomberman 2?
It's just another perfect example of a game that is cheaper on Famicom, and it's only expensive on NES because people need it as like this uncommon set filler. So I thought this was interesting. On NES, Bomberman 2 right now, it's $117 for a cart and $210 complete in box. It's less than double the price for a complete in box copy of a game I think most people would say is somewhat uncommon. Which is just showing you so many people are just buying up loose copies to complete their loose NES sets. I would say Bomberman 2 complete in box and NES is probably a deal.
That's what I'm saying. Like, remember we did that episode where we talked about the threshold, right? Where if you look at the complete box game and you look at the loose cart and you look at the divide there, like, what is the difference in cost? If it isn't that much, buy the complete because you can always sell off the other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or you could just keep it.
Or you could do that. One, it'll probably pay more dividends. I mean, in our game draft, we saw that complete and box stuff well outperformed cart stuff. Even on like quality cart games, when we did the original retro draft for $1,000, the stuff that we bought cart only increased a little bit, but the stuff, even though we paid more for the box versions, the percent of increase there was much higher. So something to keep your mind on. And, maybe someplace to put your money instead of cart only stuff.
Johnny, I'm no longer a cart only type collector, because I'm pretty sure I have every cartridge I've ever wanted. So all I have left is to buy complete in box games. I guess I could technically, like, maybe if I got into like Jaguar, but even then I'd get them complete at this point.
Jaguar games are so ugly and they're curved. How would you put them on anything?
Jaguar, like, all those games are available new old stock, so.
I hate the Jaguar.
Anyway, Bomberman 2, it's like $20 on Famicom. That even seems high to me. I think that's just like American prices. This game is dirt common on Famicom. $35 complete. Just another example. Two more. We got two more of expensive games. Shatterhand or Tokyo Shire Soul Brain. Shatterhand's like $200 complete on NES now, which seems high to me as someone who bought a sealed Shatterhand about a year ago for $200.
The last Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Yes. But it's sort of, I don't know if cult classic is the word. It's one of those games that the people who play NES games really like. On Famicom, it's like $400 to $600, and that is multiple sales completed on Yahoo Auctions. It's based on a TV show. They are basically the same game. You play as some kind of like robot guy in the Famicom version. I have no idea why this game is worth $500 in Japan. Maybe it's a super popular TV show.
And what are you in the US, cop?
You're a cool ass guy with a hand that explodes into a metal something. What are you? Does your hand just... I have not paid attention to the story of Shatterhand, Johnny. I could barely tell you the story of Ninja Gaiden 3, and I play that game a lot.
This is another one of those games where they just changed it for reasons. Like, I don't know if they thought the American audience would be turned off. They're like, oh man, all these assholes just want to be like Chuck Norris. And like,
yeah, they want to be a cool guy with sunglasses.
Yeah, he's got to be like Chuck Norris or Sylvester Stallone or Charles Bronson. Is that a name you even know? Is like that like used to be the action hero of like the old people when I was young? Like not just like John Wayne was before that and Clint Eastwood was like before that, but like Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson were like these like action stars before it was just like all Arnold and Sylvester Stallone. Did you have that?
I would not bring up Charles Bronson. Is not a name that I would ever bring up, Johnny.
Death Wish. Okay. All right.
No.
Just curious.
Oh, wait. Is he the same guy in Death Wish 3?
Yes. It's in all the Death Wishes.
Okay.
Well, except for the remake, which I think had Bruce Willis. I don't remember. Anyways,
starring Charles. Okay. All right. So if you say the Death Wish 3 guy, I'm 100% on board and I know who it is. So,
okay.
There we go.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Cause that was like, I didn't want to watch any movie with Charles Bronson in it. Cause he was like, it was like the old people stuff and I wasn't into it when I was a kid. Anyways. That's just
and then
learning about
Europe
Johnny.
is like, Contra, this is the coolest, most testosterone-filled game ever. Let's turn them into robots.
Yep. They're like, what do we want these guys for? Give me some robots any day. All right.
It's
fine.
Abadox, Johnny.
So this is the find of the show. find of the show.
In terms of things we didn't know, tell us, Johnny.
Okay, so Abadox, if you are like Tyler, myself, and I think most other collectors, you've looked at this Milton Bradley gem because it starts with A and you've seen it, and it's got just horrible box art. It looks like the guy who drew Mega Man 1 drew the main character, and then that guy's child drew the rest of the box, and Milton Bradley was like, that's fine, we don't give a shit, we're Milton Bradley.
It's like a spaceman in like a red and green suit, which is totally cool looking.
Yeah, you are not in a red and green suit in the game. Anyways, this is a shoot 'em up. This is like, if you get to the Europe version, it's like a cool ship. It's a Natsume title. It's all dark looking. We mentioned Geiger before, but it looked like it could be an alien pod out of Geiger. You could like be in that world. And if you actually look at the gameplay for this, and I can't believe I'm so turned off by the stupid looking box and the fact that it was Milton Bradley. I'm like, well, by the makers of Connect 4, no way am I playing this game. Goodbye. I will go do something else. I'm not into this. But you look at the Japanese version, you're like, wait, that actually looks pretty cool. And then you look at the back of the box and it looks like some sort of mashup between like Metroid and what I say, Gradius a little bit. Like Life Force, it just looks like a cool shmup all of a sudden, and I did not know that. I did not know that or think that at all. Famicom box, so much better. So much better.
I mean, so the logo is the same between the two of them, but it looks out of place on the NES box. It's like this metallic Abadox logo, and then it's got like red growing on it, like in a very like... It's
to me, it
grim.
looks like kids'
It's a grim
toothpaste.
Logo for how cartoony the box art is.
Yeah, like it for me. I'm like, what is all that pink foamy stuff? It looks like kids' toothpaste foaming up. But then you look at the Famicom box and you're like, oh, that's like guts or something. That's gore. What is happening here? Go look at Abadox. It is. I did not expect it. I was surprised. Tyler was surprised too. So I wasn't.
So I was surprised at the price. So I like Abadox. Abadox is cool because the whole game takes place inside an alien, which is kind of like what the last level of a lot of shooters are. But in this, like, it's just like everything is intestines, and we're gonna shoot at enemies that are organs. It's a gross game,
like,
which is very
like,
cool.
Yeah, imagine like Life Force a little bit, not Gradius, but imagine Life Force. Like imagine you have like top-down shooting and you have side-scrolling shooting. That's this game, and you're inside some creature, and it's like really pretty gross. And then you have the worst box art you've ever seen. Yeah. Also, I didn't know it had a secondary title because that's how little I look at it. It's called The Deadly Inner War. What the hell?
I don't know, Johnny. It's like the box art's bad, and you wouldn't be drawn to that part of the box.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I wonder. Like now, I just want to go play this game. Now I'm like, I should go bust out Abadox because now I'm curious if it's any good.
Play Gimmick.
I want to play Gimmick too, but can't do them all.
Anyway, so, Abadox on NES. I would say it gets very little respect because it is very common, and it's very common new old stock. You could probably pick up a copy of this for like $80 sealed, but $35 complete. Famicom, cool box art. Everything about this is cool. I had no idea. $300 complete in box on Famicom.
Yeah, that was the other astounding thing. And we were looking for something with like a big price discrepancy. I'm like, Abadox? Why the hell would Abadox be so expensive? And then we started looking and I was like, holy shit, Abadox looks sweet. Go check out Abadox. Do yourself a favor. Go look at that game. And then buy the Famicom copy if you're going to buy one.
Yes, definitely get the $300 game that we had no idea was expensive or collectible. If there's anything Collector's Quest should do to you, it should take games that you've never even thought about as collectible and make you want to spend hundreds of dollars immediately. This is a 100% hype-driven show.
Yeah. We are hype beasts, so let's, can we get that hype train noise going right now? Abadox!
Choo choo!
There we go. So, yeah. I mean, I was even looking at like some of the art, like the magazine art. Even the magazine art for this is stupid. And I think it's just because it's done by Milton Bradley. I really think that the Milton Bradley thing took me as a kid and just removed my ability to see or want this game. And that's how I feel about pretty much anything that's got that ugly ass Milton Bradley logo on it.
So ugly
on a video game. So yeah,
they got like this gray border.
Yeah, it's off-putting, and I just dislike everything about the box design for this thing and for all the Milton Bradley games, really. And I don't hate Milton Bradley as a company or anything. I just whatever this was, terrible. Anyways, that's it. Well, we have like one other game you want to mention real quick.
Flintstones 2, Johnny. That's
Flintstones 2.
Like $800 American, $2,500 complete. I don't even know what a Flintstones 2 costs anymore. To be clear, Flintstones, The Surprise at Dinosaur Peak. I was like, The Revenge at Dinosaur Peak?
Yeah. Revenge of Dinosaur Peak.
Generally considered one of the rarest NES games. What is it on Famicom, Johnny?
Oh, 0.
Well, I don't know. I see a bunch of sold listings for like $25 to $60.
Zero. It's the amount is 0.
So I just wanted to bring this up. There are games that came out in America where you will see Famicom versions of them that are all bootlegs. And Flintstones 2 is just one example of that. Don't try to buy every game cheaper on Famicom because some don't exist.
Yep, that is true. Now we have like 2 other, these are just cool ones. This is Tyler's games that are too cool for America. Tyler. Yeah. So these are just like sweet games that you might want to look at, but beware of that Famicom price.
Guevara on Famicom, known as
I've never heard of that game.
On NES.
Oh, that very popular game.
Super good game. Kind of the only, I would call it a problem. Only problem is that it has infinite continues. So you could just kind of blast through it, but it is a super fun game. $10 for a loose cartridge, $30 complete for Guerrilla War. Great price. Everyone go buy Guerrilla War. Really one of the best NES games.
An SNK title, great publisher. Hard to argue against buying Guerrilla War.
Yeah. Guevara, the Famicom version, the original version, you play as Che Guevara, and player 2 plays as Fidel Castro. And
are you kidding me?
These
are bad dudes.
The Cuban Revolution. That is the only difference. I think you either see player 1 and player 2, like when the stage starts or the stage ends. And in the American version, they just changed it to player 1 and player 2. That is it. Famicom version goes for $40 loose, $350 complete, just for that one difference. I don't know. I'm just assuming it's because that's an awesome difference. It's a game where you can play as Fidel Castro on Nintendo, and that's why it's so expensive. But actually, I don't know why this game is so expensive on Famicom.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that people want a game out there where you can play as Fidel Castro and Che Guevara.
I mean, all right, so that makes sense. Why we don't want people playing as the quote unquote bad guys. And I guess the
I don't know if that's true.
What was that?
I said I don't know if that's true. It's random speculation.
Sure. The next example, in the vein of Wolfenstein, they got rid of the bad guy and made the game worse as a result. So, Bionic Commando with the
love that game
on NES has the much catchier title in Japan of Hitler's Resurrection: Top Secret. Very on the nose, with very on the nose.
So, what do you think that game is about? What I don't actually know. What do you think that means?
I don't know. I mean, it could be a game about anything. It's just like Clue Land. I think it's just an abstract thought.
Oh, okay. Kind of like Mappy Land.
Sure. Whatever going on in Mappy Land.
It's just one of those titles that means nothing, right?
Actually, I don't know the plot of Bionic Commando or Hitler's resurrection. I mean, Hitler literally gets resurrected. He's called like Master D in Bionic Commando, and they turned the Nazis into the Bads, Badds. And they also turned swastikas from the Famicom version into like a cool lightning logo in the NES version. If I'm remembering correctly, maybe it was just taken out entirely, and I'm thinking of a different game. But obviously, a ton of changes from Hitler's resurrection to Bionic Commando. And $10 in NES for a loose cart, $75 complete. Famicom, it's $40 for a cartridge. $250 complete. I don't think I actually found a completed listing. That's based on memory because I just bought one of these a few months ago. That's a crazy weird game, and like Hitler totally on the box art of that game in Japan. There's a Nintendo game that has Hitler on the cover.
Yeah, and if you like Bionic Commando Rearmed, which you could play on the Xbox, on the cover for that, it's got M. Bison. If you haven't seen it, it looks like Bison.
Okay, I cannot imagine the Bionic Commando Rearmed thing.
Yeah, it's got like, looks like Bison yelling in the background behind the Bionic Commando.
So this is a weird one.
Okay.
Because it makes me think of Wolfenstein 3D, because obviously the Nazis are the bad guys. You kill them. Hitler's face still explodes in Bionic Commando. I don't think they actually changed what Hitler looks like. Maybe they like removed his
I think they kept like it does like the grim like melty thing. He gets. I mean, it blows up, but it kind of looks like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, like you looked into the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, if you've never seen the end of Bionic Commando and you want to see Hitler blow up, you should go look that up.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Wolfenstein 3D because the vast majority of American releases of Wolfenstein 3D had their boxes censored. They removed swastikas, they like censored them and blurred them out, which like at some point makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, it's a game about killing Nazis. It's like, and now we're in the modern era and people are like, yeah, give me more Wolfenstein games. I want to kill more Nazis. So, I don't know.
Too soon.
Maybe too soon. Also, I don't know. Maybe Japan was kind of allied with Germany. I don't know how the sentiment was in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that we're even confused about this at all is weird.
Yeah.
We should know. Yeah.
Interesting game, but also extremely expensive.
By the way, the English version had like an eagle or bird emblem instead of the swastika. In the Japanese version, it was like a lightning bolt through a swastika.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of then.
Yep.
Good difference.
Anyways, but like, I don't know. I think those, like, the idea of both those games existing is
they're both. It is pretty funny that they exist.
Yeah, just that they're there. Like, from a collector standpoint, that's the, like, interesting things like that are neat and would make me want to put it in my collection. So, is the money worth it? I don't know if I want to spend that kind of money, especially not to put something called Hitler's Resurrection in my home. Maybe that's not a great idea, just because, you know,
he's
anybody
the bad
could
guy.
Misconstrue anything. I know he's the bad guy, but you know how the world is today. Yeah, I just wouldn't want people to see it and then be like, yeah, this guy's what I'm about, and be like, no, I'm still of the belief that Nazis should be punched in the face.
But you're willing to go put Devil World on your shelf, Johnny.
Yeah.
A game that's turning our children into Satanists.
Yep. I'm okay with that. Wow. Do we want to talk about politics and religion? Let's do both. Well, yeah, let's get into it. Tell me more about your religion and how you feel about Nazis. Which, you know, back in the day, talking about Nazis and not liking them and saying that they should be punched in the face wasn't a statement that anyone had a problem with.
Oh, man, Johnny, you're getting...
Back in my day...
maybe too political for Collector's Quest.
You can edit it.
Okay.
Or you can leave it in. I don't care. Like, whatever you believe, you should still believe. Whatever you think has happened in the United States, if you just think about what a Nazi actually is, you should still be okay with punching them in the face. That's all I'm saying.
In the immortal words of dead Kennedys, Nazi punks, f*** off.
Yeah. Also, the Bionic Commando, like some of the art's just got like Hitler like puppeteering in the background.
Yeah, that's crazy. The box art. It's something.
It's crazy. He's like on fire and stuff. You're just like, holy shit. This is real. What are they doing?
Yeah, it's that's why I wanted to bring it up. It is
also, I mean, even
America.
in the 80s, that like wasn't cool. So, wow, it's real weird. Anyways, too cool for America.
Now that you're right, as you're saying, like Hitler's puppeteering, maybe that's not the best choice of words, but still,
yeah,
too hot for America, too something for America.
Yeah, it's
save the children from this game.
Yeah, woo. That's spicy for the 80s and 90s, and still. That's it, though. That's all the games we wanted to talk about. We did it.
Yeah, good job, us.
All right.
I don't know.
Hey, we did it.
I think the main thing I wanted to bring up was not all Famicom games are cheaper, and some of them have different prices for interesting reasons.
Yes, absolutely. And that price discrepancy, like, again, on the text games, if it's heavy text, you can expect it usually to be cheaper. Also, if it's an exclusive game to that territory or to like any territory, you can expect it to be a little more expensive. So, just things to keep in mind. But remember, most of the collecting happens through the US still. I mean, people definitely collect everywhere, but if we're talking what is still driving the economics of video games right now, it's, or at least collecting it. It's still America, I think.
I think, at least the ones we're interested in. I have no concept of what the collecting scene in Japan is like, because every once in a while, I will see like a huge Japanese collection, and they're always just like perfectly curated, everything in mint condition. And I'm like, I don't see these guys. They don't come to our forums, so they must have their own forums. I wonder what they're saying about us and our stupid American versions of the real games that they have.
They probably hate it, but who knows? I'm not sure. I just know that like all the recent price spikes and everything have been like solely American. Not to say that other collectors aren't involved, but it feels very, very much like, the price of games has been pushed hardest in America. Not to say that, but PAL games have been expensive forever. So, maybe I know nothing. Maybe I know nothing about it. I'm just going to say I don't know enough about it, but it seems like just because America is usually a bigger place, not than Asia, but than Europe, you have more collectors here. But that could strictly be raw numbers and not actual percentages. Raw numbers
we also
aren't always
have
the best way to look at things.
Enormous houses and disposable income. Not that Japanese people don't have disposable income, but they also tend to have smaller living spaces where they don't have, say, 10,000 video games.
That's true. But why are their special editions gigantic?
I don't know.
Their special editions are so much bigger than ours.
John, I see like the price of Batman Arkham Asylum Collector's Edition. I was looking for a Batman Arkham Asylum. And I didn't turn off my save search. So every once in a while, I see them come up for like $60 to $100. And I'm like, it's one of my favorite Xbox 360 games. It's just enormous, even though it's like relatively cheap for what it is.
Is that the statue one?
It comes with a Batarang, I think. It's just like super long.
That's the Batarang box. That's where it comes in like a plastic box.
Yeah, it would be like almost storing like another Miracle box. Piano. Like, what am I going to do with this thing? So I just
it's not as tall though. You would stick it right on top of your Miracle Piano. Would be the perfect place.
I guess that would look so stupid. I don't want to keep those two things together. They're so different.
They are. All right. So that's it for that part of the show. Let's move into the what are we buying and did we play anything? Go through that kind of quick. We don't need to keep the good people on the hook unless you bought a bunch of cool stuff. Did you buy a bunch of cool stuff? We don't have Stefan here to show us off or show us up, so you could win collecting. Who's going to win collecting this week? Woo!
Well, Johnny, I've got two big contenders. I think I only bought 2 games. I literally bought everything at the end of last year. It was crazy last year. I bought Jam It on Sega CD on Sega Genesis with the CD for $10. Oh, goodbye. They listed it. They knew what they had. They said near mint with CD, and it was only $10. I figure, why not buy that? That seems like a good deal. I don't have the CD, so I'm really just buying it for the CD. I've had that save search set up for like a year, and they come up, but it's like, I don't want to pay however many dollars for Jam. I'm not paying like $60 for that CD. So I'm happy with that. And the other thing I bought was complete in box Famicom game, Popeye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was $15. It's in like okay shape. $15, I cannot complain. I do want to get all of the Pulse Line games, which are the Famicom kind of equivalent of the Black Box series, and a lot of the games are the same too, just like Popeye.
Does it have different art, or is it?
Yeah, 'cause all the Famicom games, they're all like hand-drawn art. I think they all are. As opposed to our weird post-it art in America.
Is it Popeye 2 on, is it Game Boy? There's Popeye 2 on Game Boy.
There's 2 Popeyes in the Pulse Line series on Famicom. There's like Popeye and Popeye English. Right. I don't remember I don't actually know a lot. I just I'm checking this off the list. Popeye English is like the Donkey Kong Jr. Math Popeye.
Oh, it's
Popeye's going around
English,
and picking letters.
It's Popeye English lesson.
Yeah.
It's teaching you English. Who worse to teach anyone English than Popeye? That, like, if I was going to have anyone teach me English, it's not Popeye. He's the wrong choice.
I mean, is Popeye like a super American character? So they're like, we're going to have the super American character teach you English.
But he definitely doesn't speak well. He's got like a discernible mumble.
But they don't know that.
Yes, they do. I mean, depicted in the cartoon.
I mean, I think this game exists.
Like, come on.
This game probably exists because the arcade game was probably popular in Japan, and they don't know that, like, Popeye is stuttering, not knowing what he's saying. They're just like, oh, I love that arcade game. Let's have him teach me English. Just like Donkey Kong. I don't know how Donkey Kong talks. I just want to have Donkey Kong teach me how to multiply a 2-digit number by a 3-digit number.
Yeah, like, honestly, maybe not have an animal teach you math. Maybe have a person teach you math. Just saying. Also, I didn't know that there was a Popeye game for the Super Famicom. Did you?
No, I don't know anything about Super Famicom, Johnny.
So this is like a thing. I don't love Popeye, but my dad loved Popeye. So I think about my dad and I buy Popeye stuff, especially now that he's gone. I look at Popeye stuff more. So I am surprised that now I'm like, it's also kind of expensive. I just want you to know there's one going and it's like, they're over $100 for these Popeye games, on Super Famicoms. Now, like, I'll probably buy, I don't know if it's unique to the country or what, or to the region. I mean, I don't know if there was one I don't think there's one on PAL. I don't remember seeing it in my list. So that's weird. So I guess it's like a Japanese exclusive. This Popeye game. Weird. All right. But there's also a Popeye 2, like I said. So if you haven't seen Popeye 2 come up, that's an expensive-ish game sometimes.
Popeye is like a fashion magazine in Japan. I'm looking up like if Popeye is popular in Japan, and Popeye is definitely popular in Japan.
Really?
Like maybe more popular in Japan than America?
Yeah, like if you want like a complete Popeye 2 for Game Boy, it's not too bad. It's like $150 or whatever. But that's weird if he's like a fashion icon. Like I've got like from my dad's like collection, I have like a weird Popeye like action figure still in the box, like, or in the package. Popeye's a weird thing. I did not know there was 2 Famicom games about him. And there is a GBA one, which is a little uncommon as well. It's called Popeye Rush for Spinach. Go check it out. That's got like classic Popeye art. Looks got a nice box art to it. I like it. You get to see Bluto, Olive Oil, and Wimpy.
Nah, they're just in starbursts. I think that box art could be better. It's not bad box art because the logo is pretty good. But they just got the characters in. They're just like, put some starbursts in to show the other characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if you want a depiction of what those characters are, it's like. But I think there's some controversy over Bluto because I think his name is Brutus for like some period of time. I don't know. I haven't looked this up, but it's a thing like Bluto versus Brutus. It's the same character. And then if you don't know the baby's name, who's not shown, Sweet Pea. There you go. There's your Popeye trivia.
Thanks for the Popeye trivia.
Yeah,
also, Donkey Kong was originally a Popeye game. So if you want your first print, get a Popeye game and pretend it was Donkey Kong.
Woo! Wait, Popeye and Famicom is Donkey Kong?
That's what I said. Popeye on Famicom is Donkey Kong. It's the true first appearance of Mario. Popeye is Mario, guys.
Holy shit, the connection is there.
Also, I'm just putting this together. Why was Shigeru Miyamoto making a Popeye game? What is the influence of Popeye on Japan? Somebody explain to me. Read the Game Shark. You know a lot about Japan.
Yeah, tell me what the hell is going on there. Especially like if we're getting into history, Popeye is a naval sailor, right? Like, does Japan want anything to do with like the U.S. military? Like, I don't know. I don't know either. These are not things I know
spinach?
about. Have I ever told this story on Collector's Quest where I was forced to eat a whole can of spinach?
You were forced to?
Yeah. So not like held down and forced, but I was not allowed to get up. So because my dad liked Popeye and we put on the cartoons when I was little and stuff, they had Popeye canned spinach in the store when we're going through it. I was just like, holy shit, that's the real right there.
Yeah.
Mom, I need that canned spinach. She's like, you don't like spinach? I'm like, I like that one because I'm going to get Popeye muscles if I just eat that. You know, it's a cruciferous vegetable, mother. It's dark green and leafy. It's good for me. What don't you want about this? My mom's like, we're not buying that. I'm not wasting. And I remember it was like 59 cents. It's like, we're not wasting like 59 cents on that. I'm like, Mom, I promise I will eat it. I was not very old. I was like 5 or 6. But I remember having this moment and just her being like, all right, but you're going to sit down and eat the whole thing. I'm going to make it for you when we get home and you're going to sit there and you're going to eat the whole thing. Her knowing full well that I did not like spinach, like hated spinach, as a matter of fact. Still don't like spinach to this day. This moment didn't help. Anyways, yeah, so she made that spinach for me, put the whole thing in a bowl right in front of me and said, dig in. And I did not finish it, but I had to eat a healthy portion before she finally released me. And it put me off of most canned vegetables forever, which I think is fine. But also, like spinach, I want no part of spinach.
That's a sad story. That makes this sound like you wanting spinach made you hate spinach as an adult. Because I love spinach. So
yeah, my wife loves spinach too.
To hear the story.
Ugh. Like, and the way it wilts down and smells. Ugh.
So good.
Ugh. Do not like it. So
also, one more Popeye game that I looked up as you were telling this story, Johnny, is Popeye Beach Volleyball for the Game Gear in Japan, the prequel to Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball.
I'm sorry. One, that last part isn't true, but is there really a Popeye volleyball game?
Popeye Beach Volleyball. Got olive oil in a bikini on the front of the cover.
Who cares?
So weird.
Quick Collector's Quest tie-in. If you didn't know who was in the Popeye movie that starred Robin Williams, but who starred as olive oil? Our very own Shelley Duvall, ladies and gentlemen. Shelley Duvall.
Good casting.
Yeah, it was good casting. Very good casting. Shelley Duvall, super weird looking. Olive oil is not someone I would want to see in a bikini on my idealized, like, I want to see women in bikinis, which I don't really care about. But if I was like going like, yeah, this is the volleyball I need to see, it wouldn't be olive oil. That's all I'm saying.
Johnny, did you buy anything?
I didn't. End of show. No, I bought a few things. What did I buy? I bought Popeye Beach Volleyball for the Game Gear. Just now. No, I did not. I'm kidding. I bought, you know what I bought? We already talked about it. I bought these stupid Star Wars games. Like trying to have at least one for the list. So there's just like, if you don't know, there's a ton of stupid Battlefront games and stuff. And the Force Unleashed is like on every system and there's so many variants and I'm going to have to do a whole thing. And I bought one of the stupid connection discs. So I would just have an example of like one of each variant, not one of each variant, but one of each character you could get in a different variant style, even though there's 4 variants. So I feel like I have to get one more just so I could show the possible variations. Sure. Anyways, it's, That's all I've bought. Like Force Awakens, Force Unleashed, and Revenge of the Sith. And I've been working on that stupid list. And that stupid list is like 240 games now, or 235 games. It's so much longer than I expected it to be. And this is only including from Atari to Xbox One, or PS4. You can say PS5, but there's no PS5 Star Wars games yet. So it's like the whole run of it. But I didn't even go into the PC stuff, because if I went into the PC stuff, I think if I tried to catalog all the variants for all the PC games, I think my head would explode. I think I would die.
That's why you can't set collect on PC. You got to decide what the good thing is and get that. Or you could dedicate your life to just saying, I'm going to get every variant of every LucasArts game, and that's going to be the only thing I collect in my life, because that's all I have time for.
Yeah, also that, right? Like, not that all of the games are LucasArts, but a lot of Star Wars games obviously came from LucasArts, and I have no idea what that would even look like price-wise to fight with other people looking for LucasArts stuff. I'm not going in those waters. I have no interest. Not even to document it. I don't want to know. I don't care.
You got to get
That's what I've done.
X-Wing, and then X-Wing Alliance, and the expansion, and TIE Fighter, or X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, Johnny. And there's ones that have a little banner on the bottom left of the thing, and some that don't. And there's probably like Amiga copies of it.
No, no, I don't care. Also, if you want to see something interesting, look into the history of Shadow of the Empire and all of the games that actually happened because of Shadows of the Empire game on N64. That game, because there's like 5 different game types in it, too many, right? So it didn't do anything great, but there's like flying games, so like Rogue Squadron and like Battlefront and pod racing all come out of Shadows of the Empire.
Really?
Yeah, because Shadows of the Empire like developed code and stuff for these like game types, and then they're like, oh, these should all just be their own games, and thus other Star Wars games were made out of them.
That's interesting. That's a great Star Wars game. Speaking of games that make you feel like you're in the Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire.
And it,
maybe like the best retro, quote unquote, all around Star Wars experience, where you're flying, you're shooting, walking around, exploring.
Jedi Fallen Order for Xbox or PS4. That one.
That's too new. Doesn't count.
You're not flying though. So that game, and so this was the problem, right? And this is why some critics did not like Shadows of the Empire. So here's a couple interesting facts about Shadows of the Empire. The reason that Kyle Katarn in that has those big bulky shoulder pads is because the polygons don't blend together well. So they had to put an overlay over those polygons, or it would just look like there's just like collision happening the whole time where his arm is like going through his body and stuff. So they had to like put this shoulder pad over. Also, if you don't know about Shadows of the Empire, it was a multimedia thing. So if you go and you think about what happened with Force Unleashed, they made like books and comics and all the stuff they released. And the first place they piloted that was Shadows of the Empire. They made comics that happened, that were happening. The comics aren't just what happened in the game. The comics are taking you at a different angle than what's going on. And there was a book that happened. The book was like the main thing, the book in the game. So the book is telling you the main story. The game is giving you a different angle. The comics are telling you something else. And then there's some other multimedia stuff that's happening that's giving you even different angles of what's going on. So it's like, they called it the movie without a movie was like their big catchphrase for Shadows of the Empire. So you have all this stuff going on, but the character, Kyle Katarn, is described differently in all different forms in the medium. It's not consistent from one to the other, which I think is hilarious that they couldn't get it right. And mainly the video game one, he looks so different because they were so limited by the polygons and how it looked. So, and they said, there's an interview with one of the head guys who was creating the graphics for it, and he's like, yeah, so we have these really forced, ugly shots of close-ups because we could finally do voice acting in a game. So we thought we needed to feature it, even though it looked horrible, or they told us to feature it. So there's a lot of funny stuff in that. And they are so down on the game, and the critics were kind of down on it. But I remember everyone I knew, especially Star Wars fans, loved that game and had a great experience with it. And the Hoth level, in the very beginning of the game, that doesn't even make sense within the story. They just threw them in there because they wanted to do a Hoth level.
Because Star Wars, come on.
Yeah, they're like, this is the most, this is like one of the most Star Wars things we can do, so let's do it. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's like some YouTube stuff you can go search for if you want to know more about what Shadows of the Empire was about. So, because I've been doing some research on these stupid ass Star Wars games, so much research so I could tell interesting stories like that.
Well, once you're done with this, I need you to also do it on PC, and then let me know all the coolest things to buy.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, well, we'll probably just have an episode, and I'll just listen to the episode.
Yeah, you're like, Johnny, just go ahead. Keep talking. Yeah, that's right. Keep going. All right, that's, do we have any more? You done? You good?
Yeah, we're done. I played Ninja Gaiden 1 and 3 for the Video Game Sage New Year's thing, if I didn't say that yet.
Woo,
very exciting. And then I've been playing some old school RuneScape. You want to hear about that, Johnny? Click the fish to get the fish.
Yeah, tell me more about how you click the buttons.
Well, I've been doing barbarian fishing, and you could do 3-tick fishing with barbarian fishing, which means that you catch a fish and then you use your
Tyler,
knife on the fish
that's it
turn
for the
it into
show.
chopped
Tell
fish.
us where we can find you.
Instagram and Video Game Sage and YouTube, and just send me a message on Instagram if you want to get in touch with me. It's the easiest thing to do.
And where would they send it? Default Gen?
Default Gen.
All right. And you can find me at Johnny_Iucci, JOHNNY_IUCCI. But of course, you know that. You know it. All right. Thanks for listening. Hope you were mildly entertained and mildly learned something, because that's the premise of the show. Got it. Bye.